If you're primarily a rock player, a blues or funk or whatever style, but you've been curious about jazz lately, you want to learn about the music, the style, you want to learn how to improvise, and you're not sure where to start, let me filter the noise and give you 6 really straightforward tips on how to be successful at learning this music. The first thing I want to clarify for you is what part of jazz are we learning? There's over 100 years of jazz history, and while I think it is extremely important for you to learn about the history of the music, to be able to understand it, you have to know that in most jazz scenes, the music that we focus on and that we played is the music from the 50s and 60s. The records, the players, the sounds from these 2 decades is basically what standardized the sound of straight ahead jazz. The very first thing we should work on is your mentality. I want you to understand that jazz is no different from any other music. A lot of people go into it or go about it as with a lot of prejudice and preconception of jazz as this harder music, or it has this crazy jazz fancy chords or fancy rhythms. A lot of non-musicians also see jazz as, music for musicians only and things like that. And it is no different from any other music. It is the same as it is no different from a great Beatles song or a great Billie Eilish or Britney Spears or Ozzy Osbourne. It is the same thing. It is music. The musical values are universal, and the goal is to be musical. So your mentality should be to be musical. And while it is true that each style has specifics, stylistic things that you have to learn to play the style, the most important thing is to be musical. It is more important to play something musical out of style than to try to play something in the style that is not going to sound musical. Okay, so that should be your mentality. Don't go about it with this fear or anxiety of I have to play in a specific way. Play music. Let's talk about repertoire. What songs should you be learning? What are the songs that are played in jazz? In jazz, there's a term called jazz standards. These are the songs that are played, and it can be songs from these jazz standards can be songs from the Great American Songbook, which is a compilation of songs by composers who were writing for Broadway plays back in the day, or movies, old movies. And then jazz musicians took these songs and created their own versions and improvised on their own renditions of these great pop songs of the time. And then there is tunes or songs composed by jazz musicians, like a song that Charlie Parker wrote, or Joe Henderson, or John Coltrane, Wes Montgomery, etc. Obviously, there's going to be different periods for tunes composed by jazz musicians, or even Great American Songbook songs, different composers and styles. But these are the great categories, right? A jazz standard from the Great American Songbook, or a tune composed by a jazz musician. Obviously, the idea is to get more specific as you learn about this, but I'm trying to keep it simple and straightforward. These are the 2 main terms and categories you should focus on. Within this, you can create periods, bebop tunes, post-bop tunes, blues tunes, etc. In the repertoire, it is important to highlight 2 important forms. The blues, because the blues is an integral part of jazz music. So you have to be familiar with the blues 12-bar form and the jazz blues and its different variations. And also the rhythm changes. This is another form that was popular in jazz, mainly based on the song by George Gershwin entitled I Got Rhythm. It's an AABA song form. It is very common, and a lot of songs are written based on that song structure and those chord changes. So again, Great American Songbook songs, tunes composed by jazz musicians, and then get familiar with the blues song form and the rhythm changes song form. Now let's talk about something more specific, harmony. What harmony is played in jazz? What chords should I be learning? While a specific type of chord doesn't define the music or a style, it is true that in jazz, a lot of the harmony is extended. What this means is that you'll be using a lot of 7 chords with colors on top, 9s, 11s, altered dominant chords, etc. You'll still use triads, but not as much as in rock or pop music, etc. Once again, the quality of the chord, the type of chord, doesn't define the music, but there's definitely tendencies in styles for which voicings and type of chords are used. So in jazz, you want to be familiar at least with 7 chords, your basic guides on 7 chords. These chords just leave out the fluff. They don't get in the way of the accompanist or the vocalist. So on the guitar, for example, learn the 4 basic categories: major 7, minor 7, dominant 7, minor 7, flat 5. These are the chords that are in the major scale. I group them in 2 basic categories: root 6 chords. So that's major 7, minor 7, dominant 7. And then minor 7, flat 5, I usually play the whole thing, or just minor 7 and leave somebody with the flat 5, the singer or maybe the soloist. So that's root 6, and then you want to learn root 5 because they look different. So major 7, minor 7, dominant 7, and then minor 7, flat 5. I play root, flat 5, and flat 7. The flat 5 is a guide tone because it's not a regular fifth. Okay? So those chords are so useful because you can accompany singers without getting in the way. They're easy to move around. Accompanying soloists, right, without getting in the register. Because you don't want to just learn fancy chords, but you don't understand how to use them, and you don't understand that, okay, playing that kind of thing is cool, but you're probably getting in the register is completely out of context in terms of the voice leading you're doing, etc. So yeah, learn voicings, but you want to learn something that you'll be able to use and learn as like a blank canvas for a song or to accompany somebody, etc. The great thing about guides and chords is that slowly you'll learn how to voice lead those with upper extensions. Stuff like that, by just simply adding colors on top of that and learning how to move that. So again, I'm just trying to be straightforward here. Those are the type of chords you want to be familiar with. One of the key ingredients of jazz music is swing, as it is blues as well. So you'll want to be familiar with these 2 concepts. But let's talk about swing because this is so important to get right. The first thing you want to know about swing is that it was a period era of the music. It was more or less between the mid-1920s to the late 1930s. It was the period where the big band sound and big bands were popular. So that's the first thing. Now let's talk about swing as a rhythm. Is swing a rhythm? When does something swing? The thing with swing, the misconception is that it's usually taught as a specific rhythm. So people start playing things with a song feel, but swing is not a specific rhythm. You see, when you're listening to straight ahead jazz, you hear the drummer playing the right cymbal in quarter notes, da, 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 and all of a sudden you start hearing pickups to the next quarter note, da, 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 da. If you do it on each beat, you sound like this, da, 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 right? So you start getting this sound. So people started interpreting this as the song rhythm. And if you analyze it, it's basically like playing eighth notes, but where the first eighth note is long. It also is like a triplet where the first 2 eighth notes are combined and the last one of that triplet is not. It's the same rhythm. And really, where the feel is the triplet, right? We feel things when the tempo is low enough in triplets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's where the phrasing fits, a triplet feel, a beat divided in 3 parts. But the swing rhythm was just thought as a cheap, quick way to give somebody access to, that kind of feel. Da, ga, da, 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 da. But it is not a rhythm, right? To swing something, to play with swing, is not a specific rhythm that you just play. So that is the first mistake. People play jazz and they think they have to swing their rhythms and play these phrases like this. Because it is swing and you're playing swing. They also come up with rhythms like things like that to kind of like resemble that feel. So that's the first thing you gotta get rid of and stay away from. It is not a specific rhythm. When you're playing slow, when the tempo is slow enough, the triplet feel is definitely felt. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you can phrase on that triplet structure. Right? If you play eighth notes, just straight eighth notes, it's going to sound really weird. So when the tempo is slow, right, you do feel that strong triplet structure. That's where you put your notes. That's where it feels good. As you speed up, that effect of swing disappears because there's no space to fit that long eighth note, the first long eighth note, or the first 2 eighth notes of the triplet combined. There's no space. They even out. So when you're playing medium tempo or fast, the swing rhythm disappears. So what is swing really? It can be a rhythm. What swing is articulation. What defines swing in somebody's playing is the way the notes are being articulated. And jazz has a specific way, specific places where the notes are articulated to create that swing effect. The thing that defines bebop, for example, the most is the articulation. If you play all of those notes without articulation, they don't swing, they don't sound good. They sound like crazy shredding. So when you transcribe and learn the music, put your attention on where the accents are in the rhythms. And that's how you'll start learning about the real concept of swing. When something swings, something is grooving. The representation of the rhythms are true, meaning a quarter note is long. It's a full beat. There's no separation between one and the other one. And there's accents to carve out the musicality of that phrase. If you get rid of all of that, there is no swing. So when you play phrases, instead of learning notes, which are important, obviously, it's more important first to start learning, when you learn those phrases, what are the notes I should be accenting? Oh, I'm hearing Sonny Rollins. Bring that out a little more than this. That's where you learn swing. The last thing I want to talk about is some advice on improvisation. A big part of playing jazz is learning how to improvise. And one thing that I think you should focus on as you learn this music is always asking yourself the question, am I really improvising when I play? Am I truly learning how to improvise? And what truly creates improvisation? Try to develop an interest for this honesty. Are you improvising really? Because there's a trap of learning a lot of material, scales, chords, solos. I'm going to learn these solos by Freddie Hubbard, blah, blah, and amazing. That's all great. But remember, a big part of the essence of jazz and what created it is truly improvising, truly creating something and making decisions in the moment. So my advice here is, while you learn all of that stuff, don't forget the most important and the true element of improvisation is rhythm. That's how you can create infinite variations. Another couple of other things I want to mention is learn how to transcribe, and don't transcribe a million things. Try to transcribe one great soloing, learn a million things about that, because the greatest improviser is not whoever has a million things to play, is whoever has one thing but can create a million other things with that. So develop the mechanism of variation. One last thing, don't fall into the trap of scales. A scale is a watered down version of something that is way more melodic and harmonically rich. Learn how to learn from chords. Learn how to play from chords. Get rid of the bass and see what the chord has to teach you. I have other videos talking about some of those concepts. Anyway, hope this video was helpful. I'll see you guys in the next one.